Hi, welcome to all of you to today's talk. Obviously, again, not from the table, but from the sofa. I hope that you're all well, and I hope that you're all managing as we continue to go through this phase of our lives, this lockdown, and all the challenges and changes that it brings. I wanted to start today's talk with just a quote that I found the other day, and it says, "Life is only a reflection of what we allow ourselves to see." So I came across this quote. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who said it, but it has had me thinking a lot over the last few days about what we allow ourselves to see, and actually how that impacts our lives as well. So how do we see life? How do we see the world? How do we see other people? How do we see ourselves at the moment? And I think it's been a tough time, hasn't it? Because obviously we've been through, we're going through this whole COVID crisis, and that has changed life in so many ways for all of us. Changed our priorities, changed the way we do things, and probably has coloured our view or changed our view of life and the world around us in so many ways. And I think it's true that for so many people this is a real time of uncertainty, and it's a time of fear as we're heading or going through another major adjustment in our lives. Life changed, what is it now, 14 weeks ago or something like that, all of a sudden, almost overnight. And now it's changing again. We're getting used to the idea of going out again. The shops are reopened. People are going back to work. Some of our kids are going back to school. And even though this is happening and it's a kind of return to life as we knew it, it's still very, very different, isn't it? We have to get used to all the safety measures in place. We have to get used to queuing. We have to get used to not being able just to walk past people. I think it's quite funny sometimes, the way that we dodge people on the pavements or in the supermarkets. So I think, yes, there is a lot of fear and uncertainty. We're obviously worried for ourselves. We're worried about our loved ones and the ones we care about, health-wise. And then, of course, we've also had and are continuing to have the Black Lives Matter protests. I just find it absolutely baffling that in the year 2020, there are still people in our society, our very civilized society, that are having to deal with prejudice and oppression and injustice because of the colour of their skin. It just, I don't know, it goes way over my head that this is still a thing in this day and age. And obviously these two subjects are the main things in the news at the moment. But we know also that in other parts of the world, other things are still happening as they were before. There are still wars going on. There are still people and children starving. Again, in 2020, there are hungry people in the world. We are dealing with pollution and the effects of climate change. And there are many, many other persecuted groups that are also having to deal with oppression and injustice. So, to use the government strapline, we must be aware. And yes, we must know about these things that are happening around us. We must know about things that are happening in the world that are preventing people, fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters. We must know about these things that are preventing them from flourishing, that are preventing them from growing and living a full life. And also we must not be afraid to speak up and act. Actually, that's one of our duties, our obligations as Christians, is to stand up against things that prevent human flourishing. But this is not all we should be aware of. There is also so much beauty and so much good in the world too. And sometimes it is hard to see because we do get caught up with fear and worry, and we also get caught up with things that only directly affect us. And that prevents us from seeing all that is good in the world. And this period of lockdown and the Black Lives Matter protests, actually, it's all been really difficult and tragic for people. But both things have also brought out a lot of good in the world. And we have seen the words of Jesus, those words, love your neighbour. We've seen those words in action in our own communities. And we've seen them in so many different ways. When we think about the acts that people have done, the going shopping for people, the checking up on neighbours, the collecting medicines, the money raising for charities. We've also seen so many people make sacrifices to help others. We all know and applaud those NHS workers and all the other key workers. You know, dustbin men, lorry drivers, it's not all brain surgeons. But all these people have made sacrifices to look after us, to help our communities going, to keep our towns clean. And they've all done that, putting themselves at risk often for our sake. And we've seen people standing together against injustices. We've seen people protesting together peacefully. White people and black people both standing up against the prejudice that some of our community face. We've seen them stand together against this. We've seen that young footballer, I can't remember his name, but that young guy stand up for disadvantaged families who are worried about feeding their children over the summer holidays. It was down to his speaking up that actually a burden hopefully has been lifted off these people, and their children will get healthy meals during the holidays. So if this behaviour isn't Christ-like, then I don't know what is. And we know that we're all human, we're all made in God's image. And that actually this whole world is so intimately entwined with God. He is in everything, he is around everything. And we see it in the beauty and the awesomeness of his creation, we see God in each other. So we not only need to allow ourselves to see the good in this world, but we need to allow ourselves to see the God in this world. Because when we seek his face in everything, when we see him and we recognise him in creation and working in people of all different types, not just Christians, I have to add, God works in so many different people. We start to see those little gems, those little sparkles that transform. They transform us, they transform society around us. When I found that quote, I was reminded of the passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 12, and it talks about this life and how at the moment we only see things as in a reflection in a mirror. And some translations put it slightly differently. They say that we only see things as a dim reflection. And that's true. We are not able to see things as they truly are at the moment, and we're not able to truly see God in all his glory right now. But we have this amazing promise that one day we will see God face to face, and then everything will be clear. And that the things of this world that obscure our view of God will be completely gone. And we're able to hold on to this promise because of Jesus, because of his life, because of what he did for us, the sacrifice that he made for us. He has enabled us to hold on to that in the knowledge that we will see God one day. We will meet him face to face. We will reside with him. He will be amongst us. So we hold on to that hope of eternal life with God. So we need to be alert. That government strapline again. We need to be alert to God in this world, to search him out and recognise him, recognise where he is at work, who he's at work in, what he's doing. And this is the reflection of life that keeps our faith and our hope alive. Because if we stop seeing God, if we stop searching for him, then this world will just be a world that is dark, that has no meaning. So we search him, and we look for him at all times, even in the most difficult of times, especially in the most difficult of times, because he is what we hold on to. He helps us make sense somehow of this world, if we can, and all the things that happen in it. But when we see him, we see the beauty too. Amen.